Hi, my name is Donovan Neal. I am the author of the book The Third Heaven, The Rise of Fallen Stars. And this is my first video podcast. And in this, I'm trying to do something just a little different and speak to my fans, speak to the individuals who really don't even know me yet, but they're looking on the web for resources, entertainment, and information that is Christian based, and particularly for those of you who have thought about going and writing. And what I just want to do during the period of time that I am here is try to pass along the pieces of information that I have. One of the things that I have discovered is that authors in the independent publishing community are very helpful. And I also want to pass along, excuse me, the information that I have to help you be successful in your publishing. There are things that I have learned over the past year and a half that I wish I knew when I first started. Things that would have saved me money, things that would have saved me time, that would have made the product, which is my novel, a better product. And so I hope during the brief time that we have together that we can I can share with you again some of the things that I have learned, and again also be inspirational as well as educational as well. So let me start off by telling you a little bit again about me and my book and what I'm about. Um, my background, I spent 20 years in the ordained ministry as an ordained elder, ordained minister in the Church of God in Christ. No longer serving in that capacity. I have spent, oh wow, the lion's share of my adult life, all of my adult life, really working in non-for-profit work. I've been managing, currently executive director for a nonprofit in Walled Lake, Michigan. And so I have a background in management, leadership. I can tell you a lot about, again, leadership and managing organizations. But in addition to that, I'm well read as relates to the Bible. I've had the opportunity for many years to teach the Bible in my local church. I've been on radio. I have again performed at various churches because I have been, and I don't do as much, but I'm an avid songwriter, and so I've written songs of praise and worship. So I'm aware of a lot of what's going on in the Christian community, and again, I'm a Christian myself. Um, and so I decided I wanted to write a book about the fall of Lucifer. And one of the questions that I get is, Donovan, why did you pick Satan, basically, of all people, to write about? And I recently had an interview that was done by Gelatai Giovanni. Um, and he asked me, and I spent some time explaining that. And from a child, my great great grandmother, who's now passed away, deceased, she used to talk to me about the Bible. And one of the things I remember as a child her talking about was the fall of Lucifer, the angels. And as I became older, that story stuck with me. And and for me, as I read the Bible, it was fascinating to me to really basically say, hey, wow, here's an angelic creature, here's a being who was in the presence of God, who spent time again in God's presence. He was perfect in all his ways, is how the Bible describes him. And this being apparently looking at his own perfection, at some point in time, as we say, got the big head and decided that he was going to try to usurp God. Um, this, according to a lot of Christian traditions, led to him being cast out, along with him a third of heaven's population, angelic population. And so I found this fascinating, and I wanted to write about this story. There's not a lot in the Bible that talks about it. Again, people have different ideas about the story, and so I decided that I wanted to spend some time really talking about it. And at the time that I started this adventure, this journey, there was no novel that I saw that at the time really addressed this issue. Now, subsequent to the time that I started writing, there has been some novels that have come out, um, but I don't think any of them are like, and from what I've been told, none of them are like what I have created. I've created something new and unique, and that's fresh, and I wanted to share that with the public. And so I finally did last year. I'm grateful for that opportunity. And again, the book is entitled The Third Heaven, The Rise of Fallen Stars. And so I've gotten wonderful reviews about it. Most of them have been 4-star reviews. And so I've learned a lot in that process about independent publishing, self-publishing, call it what you will. Um, and I want to share that information so that people can build off my own experience and be able, on some level, maybe to replicate the successes that I have and avoid the failures that I have had, and maybe collectively together as an individual who's sharing, and as you as persons who are listening, we can collectively grow together. And so that's my hope, and that's kind of a little bit of my background. Um, Having said that, again, I'm see I have one viewer on here, so I'm been recording this really to serve as a podcast for later. So it's my intention to kind of edit this. I'll probably edit this portion out all by itself. But let me talk a little bit about what's going on with my book. For those of you that do not know, again, my book is about the fall of Lucifer, and my book, I call it the prequel to the Bible, and it takes place prior to really man's creation. The bulk of the story takes place prior to man's creation, but afterwards, the book starts with Lucifer and Michael having communication with each other at the end of all things. Lucifer is in the lake of fire, and he has been judged, he has been punished. And as a result of that, Michael stands overlooking the lake of fire and really asks himself the question, how did we get to such disparate places? How did we get to this place where all this has occurred? And so once he asks that question, then you're invited along with me into the journey of how did we get to that point? How do we get from A to B? And so the book deals with that subject. How did we get from the place where Lucifer and Michael were essentially at the same place, and now they stand on opposite sides of the lake of fire? And so the series, The Third Heaven, The Rise of Fallen Stars, really will cover in several books. Originally, I thought there was going to be 3, but the Lord has a way of doing things. And I was in church one day during the Christmas celebration. I realized that, okay, this is not going to be in 3 books. And my face just went down like, Lord, not another book. But it is what it is, and God's gonna put it out at least in 4 books. And so this next book is going to be entitled The Third Heaven, The Birth of God. And that book is going to cover from the fall of Adam up into the time that we have the virgin birth, and such is the title, again, a play on that, the birth of God, the third heaven, the birth of God. So in that next book, people talked a lot about, in this first book, they loved the action. They loved the intensity of it. So I've had several people say, wow, this book was so intense that I needed to put it down for a little while and then reapproach it. And so in the next book, you're going to see that same level of intensity. You're going to see, again, more fighting. You're going to see the book is basically a behind the scenes look of the interaction of the angels and God when it comes to biblical events. And so when you read the Bible is addressed from God to man, and so as a result, you see what God is doing. And I'm going to talk about what is it behind the scenes, what's going on behind the scenes. And so the second book is kind of going to be addressing that issue. So for those of you that are fans of my work, you will be able to kind of get into my mind and see what is tearing back the veil, pulling back the curtain, as it was, and from the time of the birth of Adam all the way up until the virgin birth, what is heaven doing behind the scenes? So when you read all of these different biblical events, the fall of Egypt through the 10 plagues, the rise of Abraham, and the rise of Israel and David, the fall of those nations, the captivity into Babylon, and the Disapporia, where they're dispersed, the 10 tribes are dispersed, you're going to get a behind the scenes look in terms of what was going on in heaven when all this stuff was taking place. And so that's my challenge as an author. That's my commitment to you, to bring you this epic story that looks at the biblical events from the other side of heaven, from the angel's side, about what has been going on. And that will bring in, again, all the epicness of as they move to put into place the plan of God that he has for mankind. And so I'm looking forward to presenting that to you. I'm looking forward to you reading that, and I think you'll be excited about it. Having said that, let me talk a little bit about current project that I'm working on. Right now, I am in the process of taking the novel and putting it into audio format, and so you will hear the book live. I've got a wonderful voice actor that I was able to find, and I'm really, really excited about what God's going to do with that. And so the process was very easy, and I'll talk about that in another podcast, but this podcast is more just kind of an introduction and a way for me to give you some information about what's going on at the moment. So expect to see that. Excuse me. Expect to see that audiobook coming out sometime in the late summer. In fact, it might come out in the midsummer. The way the author is moving, the way the voice actor is moving on it. So, little hand for everybody. Let me get a little hand. All right, all right. So, I'm excited about it. I'm going to let you guys know what's going on there. In closing, I kind of want to talk about some writing tips, things that I've been asked, and things that I just want to share a little bit about. And one of the things that I'm consistently asked is making how much does it really cost to make a novel? And I've seen different ones put out information in book form that say basically you can make your novel for free. And that is technically true, but I think the truth of that really depends on how much work and how much skill you have in terms of writing, editing, laying out, designing, creating a cover, and marketing your book. If you can do all of that without the assistance of anyone else, then yeah, technically it's possible to do. Realistically, in my opinion, no, you're going to have to lay out some money. Typical things that you would have to lay out money for, if you're thinking about self-publishing, if you think about independent publishing, these are just things that you want to think about as it relates to the cash that you need to put aside, save, or the investment that you're going to make. So let's talk a little bit about just some basic stuff. When you write your book is copyrighted at the moment that you made it. And there's a lot of confusion about copyright. People say, I need to get my book copyrighted. I need to get my work copyrighted. Well, your work is copyrighted at the moment that it's created. The problem is that no one knows that it's copyrighted, and that's what we call copyright registration. That's when you're going to the government and you're registering your copyright. Your work is already copyrighted the minute you create it, but it's not registered as being copyrighted. And that's typically what people are actually referring to when they say, hey, I got to get my work copyrighted. And that by itself is $35, at least at the current price that it was the last time I checked. And so that's not free. If you want to copyright your work, register your copyright your work, authors that tell you that you can do it entirely for free, that's not the case. So you're going to lay out $35 just for that. Another thing that you want to think about are ISBNs, International Standard Book Numbers. And you can get these from Bowkers, Bowkers, and I recommend that authors get 10 ISBNs. You can, last time I checked, they were $250 for a group of 10. You can buy one, and it's less expensive. But if you plan on writing more than one book, you're going to want more ISBNs. Now, depending on how you plan to publish, whether you're going to go through a Lulu.com, a CreateSpace, some other type of situation, you can Smashwords. You can get quote-unquote free ISBNs from them. Okay, but what it boils down to is that the ISBN basically shows who is the kind of the owner of the book or whatnot like that. I'm really being basic here, and I'll probably do a thing on this. But I don't recommend that you use their ISBNs. I strongly recommend that you use your own. And maybe I'll talk about that more in a later podcast. So if you go with 10 ISBNs, that's 250. So you've already hit $285 right there. Okay. Unless you are exceptional in cover design, people do judge a book by its cover. Unless you're exceptional in cover design, you're going to pay anywhere from $5 if you were to go through, say, someone like Fiverr, versus, I don't know, it can be hundreds of dollars, even thousands. It just depends on how fancy you want your cover. So I'm going to talk more about that in a later podcast. But cover design, good cover design, is going to be more than $5. Yep, you can do it through Fiverr. You absolutely can. That's probably as close to free as you're going to get unless you get someone to do it for you as a favor or you have the skills to do it yourself. But yep, you can go through Fiverr and get a $5 cover. I think the question that you have to ask as a writer is your work worth more than $5? And is that your cover, the front door, as it were, the lobby from which people typically the first thing they're going to look at when they look at your writing. They're not evaluating whether the story is good or not. The first thing they're evaluating is something that's pleasing to the eye. Your cover is the window into your story, and if people are not interested in the cover, they're not going to usually give you the benefit of doubt to look further into your story. And so cover design is something that's very important. And so again, I'm going to talk about that in another podcast. Another thing that's extremely important is editing. Typical editing can run you anywhere easily from $1,000 to $1,500. I'd say it's running about $1,200 to $1,500 for an average 100,000 word document. That's roughly 400 pages. That's if you really want it well professionally edited. Typically that price will include copy editing. It will include developmental editing. By copy editing, I mean like a line-by-line edit where you have you're looking for spelling and grammar or something like that. Developmental editing might have to do with things as terms of plot structure, things that don't make sense. You killed off somebody early in the story and now they're back and you forgot to eliminate that kind of thing. Things that don't make sense. And so usually a price like that, $1,200, $1,500, that's about what I'm seeing in the market right now. Now you can get things for less than that. And again, I'm going to talk about those in another podcast. So, editing is going to cost you money. And editing is something that I know this from firsthand experience. In fact, I am going to take my book through another edit, paid edit. And I would say do not skimp on this area. Do not skimp in the area of editing. If you do, your readers will let you know, and you will regret it. You will regret it. So editing, it costs money. In addition to that, you have just the printing of your book. If you choose to go with a physical printout of your book, that's not going to be free. You're going to have to pay for the cost of the book being shipped to you, so you have an actual physical proof to see whether or not that book meets up with your standard. It's going to cost you probably roughly, 25 bucks, depending on how quickly you want that book shipped to you. Amazon will make it for you, but you still have to pay for the cost for them to ship that book to you. So the idea that you can just totally do everything for free is just a misnomer. That's not accurate. You are going to lay out some type of cash outlay, and you need to understand that. Now you'll be able, 9 times out of 10, to get your work at a much reduced cost than someone who's just simply buying it off any website. But the idea that it's going to be free, that's something that authors need to know, that's not going to happen. Unless you plan on doing just solely things in terms of an ebook. But if you want a physical printout of your book, you want to feel it in your hand, then you are definitely going to lay out some level of minimal outlay for that. The last thing is marketing and promotion. There's a lot of ways to market online, to promote yourself online. But I would say the biggest challenge for authors is not in the actual production of the book. A book is a product, and yeah, there'll be certain challenges in bringing your book to market. But after you bring it to market, you have to address the issue: how are people going to find your product? And that's where you're going to want to, have some level of cash reserves set aside. Whether you've done a crowdfunding type of situation. Now, again, I'm going to talk about these things in another podcast. Or whether you saved up money, or whether you have individuals who are serving as angels to you, helping you with cash outlays. You want to save up some money to promote your book. And one of the best places to do that is BookBub, and BookBub is not free. And so you want to put aside some cash. And so when you think about the budget in creating your work of fiction, your nonfiction book, particularly those who are into fiction, you want to think about, again, what are the costs involved, and you want to make sure that information, that you have the most current information, and you are factoring that into the design of your book, and maybe even into the pricing of your book. And so there's just things to keep in mind. Having said that, again, this has been my first podcast. Hope I've kind of laid out some interesting things for you, and I hope to come back and talk some more about the writing industry and entertaining things as well. Having said that, this is Donovan Martin Neal, and have a blessed day. God bless you.